everyone, welcome to a new video. In today's video, I'll be answering your thoughtful questions about everything from HCPC registration, NHS interviews, internships, gaining experience, and exploring the evolving landscape of biomedical science. So whether you're new to this field or planning your next move, this video is for you. Let's go. So in this session, what I will normally do, as I promised, every time whenever I collect like 10 questions of Q&A, I collect all the questions, and as I always said, guys, comment below the video so at least I know how much I covered and you know, if where's the gap. So I do read the comments everywhere, whether on LinkedIn, Instagram, but YouTube, it gives me an idea on where the question came from, what gap I'm trying to fill. So so let's crack on. So I've collected 10 questions, and whenever I fill the 10 questions, I do the session, prepare it, and then the next ones I put them. So this is going to be regular. And by the way, guys, check all the previous Q&A questions because I've put them under a playlist, so keep checking them because I answer all the questions. No questions gets unanswered, and at least you guys have an idea while you're waiting for the next Q&A. So I'll be answering them as I go along. So in this session, we're going to be answering your questions about NHS careers. Especially a lot of people ask about NHS, and I did talk about private before, HCPC registration, internships, and more. The questions I'm putting them as they are, raw, so without you know, without any changes. So as they are, I copy them and paste them and answer them. So the first question. I'm a microbiology postgrad from India with 5 years experience. What do I need to work in the UK? So this is how I'm going to put the questions. I'll be putting the bullet points that you need to consider, and then I'm going to explain, elaborate on the answers that I've designed. So HSP registration is required for biomedical science role, or BMS. Get used to the acronyms. BMS is biomedical scientist. IBMS, Institute of Biomedical Sciences, or the IBMS, will need to assess your degree. So that's why I'm sure you've heard many times accreditation is important. And if there's gaps, you will need to do top-up modules, which are undergraduate topics, individual topics that you will need to do. I've done all of this. I've had the longest journey, which I spoke about in previous videos, so check them out, and we're going to revisit certain points where I think we need to elaborate on. The dream job, trainee biomedical scientist or trainee BMS, but then MLA or supporting roles are recommended to gain UK lab experience. UK training in an IBMS approved lab is highly recommended. That's the only way that you can get your portfolio done. And my top advice is start as early as you can and make sure that you prepare your portfolio in order to complete the whole process. So this question, it's focusing on the transition into UK. It's very important to understand or navigate the role of HCPC, or the Healthcare Professions Council. We're going to revisit that if you're an international student. I did touch upon that if you're a home student in last year, which check that video, but we're going to look at it again. I've got content ready, which I'm putting it all together, so stay tuned for that. This is very important for international graduates or international applicants. So there's two types of applicants. You've got the home students, UK student like myself, and the international student. So if you're new to this channel, I'm Aida Noor. I'm a biomedical scientist. I've been self-employed. This is my fourth year, also referred to as locum. So I left full-time job. I've worked in the NHS, I've worked in the private, and I've had the longest journey to become a biomedical scientist. So that's why I created this channel, and I share on all my content biomedical science as a whole. The current, the future. There's a lot of content coming up, and I've published 2 books, very simple books. One where I shared my thoughts when I was going through the journey to become a biomedical scientist, and the second one where I appreciated once I became qualified biomedical scientist, I realized that, oh, there's a difference between a job and a career. Biomedical science is going through a huge transformation at the moment, like any profession, like any industry, because of technology and AI, and we're going to talk about that in a lot of details, and this is all through my experiences and my reflections. So back to this. So the HCP registration process is very important because it's a body that protects the public. So it's very important that your name is in the HCPC register. It's illegal to practice biomedical scientist or even say biomedical scientist because it's a protected title. So in order to become registered, you need to go through the IBMS. You need to complete the full assessment in terms of your qualifications, credentials, your portfolio in order to become competent. Gaining experience is extremely important. If there's a possibility of internships, or volunteering, we all had to volunteer. I had to volunteer at the beginning of my journey. So it's very important to get that hands-on lab experience. Networking. I will always say it 3 times to emphasize on how important it is. Not necessarily in person, online. The time you spend online will reflect and will help you in your journey. It helped me so much. I can tell you all about networking. I spoke about a video about the importance of networking, and I'll revisit it. I've been doing it for a couple of years and I didn't realize I was ahead of the curve. Thank God for that. But it's never too late. Use your time wisely online. That way you will spot the opportunities. So these are, in a nutshell, the advice that I will give you. So it requires you to assess your situation and see where you are. But these are the 3 things I would advise you from my experience and my observation. But we're gonna touch upon the international application through the HCPC. I've got content about this, so stay tuned. So we move to the next question. I found this very, very interesting. This is somebody who appreciates the importance of supporting roles. I spoke about the important, you've got biomedical trainee, biomedical scientist role, but you've got other roles, which are the medical laboratory assistant. Particularly in the NHS, you've got band 2, 3, 4. And I've got a slide that explains about that. So this particular person, thank you for this question. What changes are happening in the NHS microbiology labs for band 2 or 3 MLA roles or medical laboratory assistant? I specialize in medical microbiology or infection sciences, so I can tell you all about it. So the current situation or the changes, automation and sample tracking systems. There's emphasis on infection control, digital pathology, more use of LIMS or laboratory information systems. So you will hear that a lot. Digital literacy is very, very important, and adaptability is extremely important. So what I would say, expect higher digital competency requirements in interviews. So how? The one thing I want you to appreciate, the landscape of laboratories, specifically NHS, and this is from my own observation, it's evolving a lot. There's increased need for automation because the sample or specimens the numbers are increasing, and data literacy is very important. So we all have to adapt. I was fortunate when I first started my career in microbiology. I worked in a I spoke about in previous video, I started my journey in the private because I found it very difficult to enter the NHS, and I'm sure a lot of you experiencing that. So I can tell you all about it. So as an MLA, I started in the private, and then I moved into NHS, and then I got qualified. And then when I got qualified, I got a job as a biomedical scientist in a private lab, and then now self-employed, I work in different NHS laboratories or wherever there's an opportunity that will happen. So the current situation in microbiology, certain labs are fully automated. What does automation mean? It's you're being the tasks are replaced by a machine. For example, in microbiology, the samples are inoculated on culture plates, and then they get incubated in incubators, and the digital imaging is there ready for analysis. So all of that it's a total laboratory automation. So I was very lucky to work in that, and a lot of hospitals are trying, and there are different levels of automation. So we're going to talk about that. There's the full automation, which is the end of the spectrum, and then you've got the semi-automation, which is half or depending on the needs of the lab. So labs, because they can't keep up with the huge number of specimens, automation is essential now. Microbiology is one of the last disciplines that got into automation. I think it was as late as 2006 compared to all the other disciplines. In a previous video, I spoke about the different specialities, by the way, so have a look at that if you're looking into that. So the reason the automation is important, to streamline the processes, enhance efficiency, and reduces human error, because it can happen. Infection control is essential. Advanced data systems, they will enable tracking, management, and control measures in healthcare setting. Data literacy, that therefore is very important, because everything is digitalized. This is something I got introduced to back in 2022 about digital health. It's important because the main aim is for the whole ecosystem, doctors, anybody involved in the system can access the data. So the advantage of that, it's accurate, you're less likely will make mistakes. So just bear that in mind. It's important to appreciate that digital literacy or data literacy is important. So that will lead me to the next question, which I really like. What's the data entry practical like in band 3 MLA interviews? So thank you for that question, whoever asked it, because I find that people are really paying attention, and I like that. So accuracy is prioritized over speed. It's not people's lives. So don't think that you have to be fast. You need to practice with Excel, mock LIMS. So I would say visit hospitals and have a look at the way they book, so at least you can see how it's done. Expect realistic patient and sample data scenarios. So time pressure, it's very important. However, you need to be accurate and stay calm, and this is a skill that you will develop with time. So don't feel like that you need to rush in order to put the data. This will come with practice. You will become faster. So let me give you a bit of a background or for context. Let's assume I'm gonna refer to, since the question is about NHS, or any, let me talk about the NHS. When specimens arrive from different sources, such as the doctors or from the hospital, they arrive to specimen reception or sample reception, or there's many acronyms that can be referred. Just think of it where the samples arrive, the reception. So the samples will be sorted according to their type, whether urine or stools or whatever, and then they get labeled with their designed labels, and then they get booked into the system using the system of the hospital or the trust, and then they get distributed to the correct or allocated, for example, department. So that's how it is. Sometimes they come from different departments within the hospital. So sometimes they share the sample, or sometimes the patient, because think of the patient, there's many samples that can be taken, blood, urine, etc. So in terms of booking in or data entry, it's very essential, because you have to put the data correctly. So I've got in a previous video the questions that will be asked, and it's very detailed, and I can see a lot of high engagement on that, so we will revisit some of that, but keep looking at them because very intense, very lengthy. So it's very important that you demonstrate that you can accurately enter the results or the data, and handling time pressure calmly. It's important because it's a busy environment. So this is very important, and this is something you will develop. Do it correctly, because one mistake can kill a patient. Let me put it that way. So accuracy is important. Reliable data, which is crucial for the patient's safety and the lab integrity. Handling pressure, managing time pressure will reflect that you can perform well under pressure, which is a vital skill. And realistic scenarios, which prepares the patients for, which prepares you for anything that can happen in the lab settings. Like I said, the most common scenario, sometimes they might send the wrong sample, sometimes our sample will be sent to a different department. So this will come with practice. Once you learn the settings, so it involves common sense. It's a lot of problem solving and all of that. So I don't want to scare you, but this is the current setting. This is what I have been observing to the last, the standard. And the same in the private might be different. This is what I have noticed. In the private, specimen reception deal with everything. I started my career in the specimen reception before I moved to microbiology. So specimen reception does all of that. The departments will only receive the samples once it's all booked and everything. All they do is track it in, and that's it, and save it. So it's different. So when I went to the NHS, I had to learn the whole process from booking in, clinical details, all of that. So there is advantage exploring NHS and the private. I really think it's the best combination that I had, even though people used to laugh at me when I used to say I started in the private, but now it's the other way around. So anyway, so let's move into the next question. So the next question I also like. I like all my questions, by the way. Thank you guys for bringing all these questions, and keep asking, because I'm learning with you guys and everybody's benefiting from it. So the next question says, should I do an internship first or apply for jobs after MSc or Masters in Biomedical Science? Again, any answers I give you guys are from my observation and from, you know, what I think. So if you disagree with anything, or if you have anything, comment below and let me know. So this is what I think, guys. Internships are very important. I always say hands-on experience is extremely important in this career, especially if the MSc or the Masters is not IBMS accredited, like I had that case, which was disappointing. So I had to do the top-up modules and all of that, the whole MLA roles are still important, because it will give you you get paid, you get experience, and you got insight about the laboratory. I'm using NHS as an example. Trainee, it's a great step. Trainee biomedical scientist, but it's challenging, so also consider assistant roles or supporting roles. So practical experience during or after your MSc will boost employability, but try and get experience as quickly as possible. If you can volunteer, go ahead. Just think you are helping, you're helping your journey in advance. So this led me to think about what's the difference between internships and jobs. It's essential to understand that early career professionals, they need to gain valuable experience as soon as possible, specifically in biomedical science field. There are benefits for from internships, because they provide you with real world exposure to laboratory environments. You network, you expand your connections. Yes, it might be very difficult that you might not be able to get internships, and this is something I've learned from other during my research with the newbies, if I might say, or the new generation. A lot of networking will help you. You need to be an outgoing person. You need to learn from other, communicate. You can't, I know the new generation are reserved, and but the ones who are outspoken, they're the ones who are ahead. This is a common trait I've seen across. The ones who are outspoken, out there exploring, networking, they're the ones who are getting the opportunities compared to the ones who are not. This is advice I would give you guys, and advice I wish I learned as well. There are advantages if you get a supporting role that is permanent, because it's secure, and there's a long-term progression. So if you start as an MLA, let's assume as a band 2, you will progress into a band 3, because you are working and you developing yourself. So that's another advantage if you get a permanent role, let's assume as a supporting role. However, both roles will help you in terms of developing your skills, because you will get hands-on experience, practical experience. That way you will ensure that you succeed in the biomedical science. And I think that matters in every field, not just biomedical science. So gain experience as soon as you can. If you're a student or you're someone who's starting your career, let's assume you're not in biomedical science or any other career, get experience, hands-on experience as soon as you can, because that will make a huge difference in your career for moving forward. So now to the next question. I really like all your questions, guys. Really, truly, I'm learning so much from you. So keep asking those questions, because this is how we navigate the world of biomedical science, even beyond that. So stay tuned to the end, because there's another interesting question. And thank you for that student who did, because I'm very proud of you. Let me just say that. I hope you're watching this video. So the next question is, I've started Masters in Biomedical Science or MSc Biomedical Science. How do I become HCPC registered? First, I would say make sure that you confirm if your master's is IBMS accredited or not. If not, start the process of exploring getting your degree or your qualifications assessed to know if you need top-up modules. So that is under the IBMS assessment. So you need to contact the IBMS and send your documents and all of that to find out. And make sure that you secure a role, whether MLA or BMS or whatever, in an IBMS approved laboratory. That way it will involve you completing an IBMS registration training portfolio. In a previous video, I spoke about the importance of what you need in order to become qualified biomedical scientist. You need your qualifications to be accredited. You need the portfolio. Them together, they will qualify you to become IBMS accredited. What is it called? IBMS competence, that you're competent. So it's basically telling the HCPC that you're fully competent and you do get a certificate, and then you can apply to register with the HCPC as a biomedical scientist. So the whole process requires patience. So it does take time, but believe me, I'm talking from the other end. It will pay off. Once you've got, it's I'm gonna say it like I did in it's my channel. I can say whatever I want. You won't get laid off compared to if you work in a corporate world. In the corporate world, you're replaceable. The company goes bust, that's it. But you're a BMS, you're a biomedical scientist, you've got your qualifications, you've got your experience, you are protected. As long as you don't do something against the law, you're fine. So let's elaborate on this point. So the path to the HCPC, it does require IBMS accreditation. So and it does need a lot of documentation, but fortunately everything is online now, so it's easier for you. And the application, which we're going to look at if you're a home student or international student, but I'm talking in generally speaking. So your experience is also important, so don't undervalue any lab experience that you got. You include all of that information, so collect evidence as you go along. So 3 things I want you to appreciate. IBMS accreditation is the most important. You need to get everything assessed. If you need any top-up modules, then you will need that as well in order to meet the HCPC requirements. You need a portfolio that proves that you are competent, and there's many sections. That way you will showcase relevant experiences and skills gained during your studies. So that in a nutshell, it's a process, but it pays off at the end. So the next question, how can I stay HCPC registered if I haven't secured a job yet? That was a very good question. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, you can maintain during your job search. This will involve you engaging in CPD or continued professional development. You know what? Because we acronym everything, we forget the actual word. It's so bad. I know, but sorry. So this will involve attending webinars, watching scientific content like myself, reading journals, write reflections. So you need to document all your activities, and there is a CPD document in the HCPC where it explains it fully. So, and also keep your contact details updated with the HCPC. So this was a very good topic. If you notice, I put all the questions in a sequence that they follow. So we spoke about the HCPC. Now, how can you stay registered while you searching for your next role? So it's crucial for your career continuity, engaging in the CPD activities and proper documentation. That will ensure that you're compliant and your professional development without, even when you don't have active employment. So again, continuous professional development. That's what CPD stands for. Yeah, engaging will keep your skills relevant and sharp, demonstrating that your commitment to the profession. Yes, it will require proper documentation and to maintain your compliance with the HCPC standards. Networking. I'm sure you're used to me saying it 3 times. Stay connected with the industry. Everybody's on LinkedIn, by the way. Everyone's on social media. That way will enhance your career perspective and gain insights in developments in biomedical science. So the next question, how will my international internships or experience count in the UK? Your experience is valuable. It shows initiative, But HCPC registration will remain essential for not just NHS, any biomedical scientist role. International experience will help with private labs, research, and associate roles if you're finding it difficult to get into the NHS. Completing the portfolio or any top-up modules will bridge that gap if you have an international experience. And I have seen people who came. I might have mentioned the story, but I'm going to mention it again. They came here, they already have the biomedical science experience, etc. So they apply to the HCPC. While they're waiting, they work as an MLA, and it can average, it takes up to 1 year. And then the HCPC will say, you're fit, you're good, you can practice. Then they can apply for biomedical scientist role. Sometimes within the company, especially in the private, I've seen it, they were MLA and then they apply for BMS, or I'm not sure about the process, but you see them, they became biomedical scientists once their paperwork is done. So they still get paid for while they're in the country and waiting for their papers to be processed, and they're gaining home experience or UK experience. So it's a win-win. Yes, you might be waiting to become a biomedical scientist or UK registered, but you're gaining experience and you're getting paid for the job that you carry out. So it's worth the process, especially if you want to start your career in the UK. International internships, they will provide valuable experience and it will enhance your HCPC registration. And also it will help you stand out in the competitive biomedical science field. So practical experience, it will give you hands-on training and will build your skills and confidence in laboratory practices and protocols. Networking opportunities, connecting with professionals globally, can lead to mentorship, job opportunities, collaborations in biomedical field. So experience abroad can help you and fulfill the criteria for the HCPC registration. It will show your commitment and adaptability in the profession. So the next question, I like this one as well. I'm biased, but thank you guys. Keep bringing those questions. So can I move from BSc Biotechnology or Molecular Biology to MSc Biomedical Science? This, I had to think about this and look around. Academic alignment is important. Your masters might be accepted related to BSc, but you might need extra modules to bridge that gap. Also, you have to understand what are your career goals. Do you want to be a biomedical scientist? You need to understand IBMS accredited masters, registration, training, portfolio, like I've explained in the previous question. Pathways, you need to consider the conversion and gaining MLA or lab assistant. So make sure that your studies are aligned with your career goals. So you need to do a bit of, like I mentioned before when I was explaining how to explore biomedical science, about your goals. Maybe you want biomedical engineering, just just think of these things: your academic alignment, career goals, pathways, and so 3 things you have to elaborate, 3 things you need to think about. Career alignment: ensure your undergraduate studies cover the key biomedical science concepts and practical skills relevant to the master's program. Your career goals: do you really want to get into biomedical science? Maybe you might be interested in biomedical engineering. I've done a comparison recently about them. I had to learn about it. I didn't know it existed. Maybe this is something you might consider. So what is exactly your career goals so that you can choose the suitable master's specialization? Explore those various options in terms of internships, research, practical experience, and employability. So these are the 3 things that I would advise you from in my humble opinion. Think of that. It's a decision. It's not, there's no right or wrong. No knowledge is wasted. No experience is wasted. But just think that you're not escaping from something. Every career will require hard work. The good thing about biomedical science, yes, you put a lot at the beginning, but once you're qualified, where I am, you're comfortable, and it sets a strong foundation. You can grow into anything after that. This is my own experience, and I do every 6 months a bit of a review where I'll talk to you about it, how far it's going. So check my other videos where I talk about self-employment, why I left full-time job, etc. and how is it going so far, even career breaks, branding. I explore all of these things because I explore my career goals regularly, and I've just recently spoke about the importance of mentorship, and I've seen some good feedback about them. So have a look at these before you make that big decision, because I don't want anybody making that big mistake, because you might get into it and you think, oh, this is not for me. So you don't want to get into that situation. I'm not scaring you, but you're still at the beginning, so don't worry about it. So that leads us to the next question. And thank you for sending this one. This particular person, I really appreciate this question, because I am going to talk about that very soon, so stay tuned. Explain the equivalence route for biomedical scientists to become clinical scientists. Yes, it's possible through STP equivalence route. It requires a portfolio evidence, assessment interviews, quite lengthy by the way, but it's doable. Successful completion will lead to HCP registration as a clinical scientist. You will apply through the Academy of Healthcare Science. There's a website for that. I'm going to look at that and explain, but I've seen people who have worked, because in the lab we work with different, we've got consultants, there's clinical scientists. So I've had a recent conversation with a recent one, and I've got some idea on how it's possible. It does involve having a detailed portfolio to showcase your advanced knowledge and skills. Yes, it does involve a series of interviews, and there's a time window where you need to apply. And then you become registered HCPC clinical scientist once you successfully apply. So if you go on the NHS website, you will have a look, you will see the process on what it's like. So what are the career paths for both of them in healthcare? Biomedical scientists, we focus on lab diagnostics. Like I always say, I try and vary what biomedical scientists do as much as possible, because it's basically disease diagnosis. We work closely with patient samples. So you're registered, you complete an IBMS portfolio, and you provide laboratory reports or laboratory support. However, clinical scientists or STP, they take a 3 years STP program. They engage in advanced clinical practice and research opportunities. The equivalence offers pathways for seasoned professionals where they gain recognition and register as a clinical scientist. So this question, thank you for the student who I've connected with through a mentoring or a talk, asked me this question, and I promised. Do you have advice for an aspiring medical student interested in bacterial resistance? This is a talk that I've delivered, or I think it was a collaboration about antibiotic resistance, and this shows how the student paid attention. So thank you for sending this question. So there are several things that you need to consider. Prioritizing practical experience. Shadowing professionals is extremely important. Volunteer or join in research. Staying curious and informed about antibiotic resistance, the current landscape and healthcare trends. Keep a journal of your learning. This is great for interviews and personal statements. And remember, passion combined with practical exposure will set you apart in terms of applications. Just to elaborate, I would say focus on active learning, seek mentorship opportunities, and remain adaptable to the evolving healthcare environment for successful career in medicine if you're moving into medicine. So how do you do that? Active learning, you engage through discussions, simulations, and clinical experience that will deepen your understanding and retention. Mentorship, like I mentioned in the previous video, it's very important because you connect with experienced professionals who provide guidance, insight, and support throughout your educational journey and professional journey, potentially. Adaptability, you stay open to change in the medical field or any field, because new technology, at the moment, technology and AI is transforming the whole world, not just this industry. So the next question, I'm a biomedical scientist with 10 years of experience in the UAE and have HCPC registration. It's been a year in the UK, but I still haven't secured a job. I've applied through NHS track, that's one of the NHS, and all applications have been rejected. Please guide me. I hate mentioning this, but it's unfortunately is part of the process. Tailoring your CV is important. Personal statement to the NHS person specification is extremely important. Actually, the person specification, that's the one that you focus on, because that's the one that's who they're looking for. Apply for temporary or entry levels to build UK experience. I always mention going via an agency. That's another good way to do it. Locum, you can go on recruitment locum and put your CV, and then at least you will get some experience. I couldn't get into NHS myself, so I started my career in the private. You can go to the trust itself, and you can go through bank. Bank involves you working directly through the hospital, through their recruitment. And that way you can do that by reaching out to the NHS labs directly or hospitals directly. Ask for shadowing, volunteering, or locum opportunities. Again, that way you contact recruitment agencies that specialize in biomedical science roles, and their hiring is much faster. I work with an agency currently as a biomedical scientist. Networking on LinkedIn is very important. I see opportunities out there. You just have to pay attention. That way you'll be able to seek advice and referrals. So let's elaborate on the job application. Tailor your CV and personal statements. Now you've got ChatGPT, it will help you just to get through that. And you tailor it to the NHS specification or the personal specification to improve your chances of getting noticed by the hiring managers. Consider applying for temporary or entry-level roles to gain that experience. Experience does matter. In the UK, they care about you experience. And that will make your application stand out. Networking. Reach out for the NHS labs, reach out for shadowing, reach out for volunteering, and that will increase your job prospects. By the way, my experience is in the UK. I'm a UK registered biomedical scientist. I do travel between UAE and UK, so I did explore how different the systems are, which I'm going to talk about that from my observations, so stay tuned. I'm putting that together. I'm building loads of promises at the moment, because it's been over a year I've been on YouTube, so I've got a lot of topics I can talk about. This is my 4th year of self-employment. There's more that I will be sharing on what I have observed in the UK and in the UAE region. So it's very interesting. Also, bear in mind, this is something I've added, supporting. The NHS recruiters often prioritize local experience. So tailor your CV based on the person's specification for biomedical science roles. Gaining short experience will enhance your chances in terms of getting the right role. And that will also help you improve application documents. So stay tuned. I'll be sharing more in upcoming videos and more Q&A. So as I always say, guys, comment on the video, because I will know what I covered and if there's any gaps. So this is my additional final tips, I would say. Building a digital presence is not an option anymore. It's not negotiable. It's an essential part of your career now. Networking also. Networking. It's extremely important. And watch my Q&A playlist. I've got loads of questions out there. Thank you so much for sending your questions. Keep bringing questions, because like I always say, we are learning together. We are navigating this changing landscape together. So don't hesitate to ask questions, because this is how we learn, this is how we grow. Nobody has the full answers, nobody knows it all. Nobody's born with knowledge. So keep bringing those questions, and well done to everybody who's done that. I'm very proud of you. I can see how smart and knowledgeable you guys are. I'm very proud of you. I'm telling you, I was very happy when I was putting this together, because I'm like, wow, these guys are smart. So wherever you are in your journey, don't underestimate what you are doing. It's valuable. It will make sense when you make it. When I reflect on certain things that I've done, I'm like, okay, it makes sense now, but I didn't appreciate it then. So keep doing what you're doing, guys. On that note, thank you so much for watching. Keep commenting, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I don't want you to miss this because there's a lot of exciting stuff that's happening. This field is transforming. I would say it's for the better. Call me optimistic. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and drop your own questions below these. Any questions or comments? Do you think I've covered enough? And there will be I'm actually putting together another Q&A, so bring your questions because I try and fit them. This one was 11 questions, but I try and put 10 so that I can give them enough room in order to explain it fully. Remember, every question you ask will not just help you, but it will help others, and it will help me to know what are the current challenges. So this will help our growing biomedical science community, or the future of work, or whichever you want to call it. So until the next video, keep shining, keep inspired, and see you next time. Whew, that was intense actually, but you know what guys, I learned from all your questions. Your questions are, it's making me realize, it's actually reminding me of certain things that I forgot, but also it's making me learn even more, staying up to date. This outside noise is really annoying, but I'm gonna record, I don't care. You guys know me by now, so I'm gonna continue filming. The show must go on. So let's go. One of the things that I really struggle with is getting the right angle. I have no idea why it's so difficult. It's always difficult. Getting the right angle and getting started. And another thing I struggle with, getting started after a short break. I'll tell you a secret guys, I batch my videos. So while it's rolling every week, I take a break in between. So when I get back to it, I'm like, it's like going back to the gym when it stops. So yeah, let's get cracking. So let's have a seat. Let's get comfortable. This session is going to be intense, answering all your questions, burning questions. So, by the way, the lighting is bothering me, so perhaps I should move the lighting a bit. You know what guys, I share this as it is, so you guys know. That's better.